Sandland, the land of sand. Storyteller! Hello and welcome to yet another Sandland Storyteller edition. This is Chris. And, you wonder what the aim is with all these stories and storytelling sessions is really to tell you first some interesting stories, but also for me to sort of relive them. The time and the feelings and the moods and the vibes that happened and that were around when these stories happened. Okay, so today's story is, I'm not sure yet of the moral impact or message that this one has, but it's all about a very specific friendship that has been building up in the past almost 24 years. Okay, and in regards to this story, you have to go back to the mid 80s when I got to know. I was, in regards to music, well, I was only like in my mid teens at the time, rather early teens, and I loved I was listening to a lot of Elvis and stuff like that, and one of the first bands that really got my interest was Genesis. And obviously at the time, Phil Collins and Genesis were very already off the progressive rock and going into this pop sort of scenario. Okay, which kind of grabbed me very intensely in the mid '80s. Okay, so I kept following them. I've seen them many times. I've seen them in '87, '92, and so on, and in the mid '90s. It was announced in '96, March of '96, that Phil Collins is going to leave the band. Okay, so it seemed to be the end of Genesis. Okay, but then the two founding members, Banks and Rutherford, decided to get another singer involved in order to continue with the band. So I was delighted to hear that, and so I followed the news, and I obviously seen that they've got the Scottish singer of Stiltskin, Ray Wilson, on board, and they were promoting a new album which then came out in September 1997. We bought it, some friends of mine and my cousin, and we were listening to it, and it was a very special album in regards to its mood and the time that we were listening to it at the time. So I was very happy, it was good, and we liked the sound and the voice of the new singer. One day I'm sitting at home in November of 1997. I think it was the 8th of November, which was a Saturday. And I'm sitting at home, and on each Saturday there was the show called Lotto Show in Hungary. Okay, that's when they draw the jackpot numbers and the lotto numbers, and so there was a show built around that. Okay, so there was an act in the show, several acts, music acts, and then you would have another number to be drawn, and at the end there was a full 5 or 6 numbers. And I don't know, because I never really played that game, but for some reason I switched this program. Okay, and I've seen Genesis perform, and I thought to myself, wow, just like I thought when Perkins was around. I told you the story about meeting Anthony Perkins. I thought, well, the Lotto Show is a live show. Okay, I didn't know that Genesis is in town, and obviously this is not some pre-recorded material here, because the Lotto Show is live. I thought so. They're in town. That means I can meet them. That means let's take action. So I called my girlfriend at the time, and she was very much involved into the whole Genesis related kind of hype that we had at the time. And I told her, well, I just seen the boys on this Lotto Show live performing. That means that they're in town, and that means that we gotta find them. Okay, and so I collected her. We drove to the same hotel where I met Perkins, and the reason for that is that I knew that 10 years earlier in '87, Genesis stayed at that hotel when they were still together with Phil Collins doing a show in Budapest. They stayed at that hotel at the Duna Intercontinental. So I drove there straight thinking that maybe they're staying there again. And we walked into the hotel and there was nothing. There was nobody. But I said that we are maybe early. Maybe they had this performance on TV and maybe they're going to have dinner somewhere. So let's go have dinner somewhere and come back. So that's what we did. We went out, had some dinner somewhere in a nice Chinese place, and then came back around, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock that evening, and I'm walking into this hotel lobby of the Intercontinental and look left and right, and suddenly, whom do I see sitting in some couch there, casually sipping along, two guys, Ray Wilson and the Israeli drummer Nir Zidkiyahu. Okay, so I was like, wow, super excited. No sign of Banks and Rutherford, the two founding members, but my girlfriend and I, we proceeded to the bar, sat down, and I remember telling her, I remember ordering whiskey, and I told her, well, we are lucky they're there, so I got to approach them, but I was nervous somehow, maybe starstruck, I don't know, but nervous definitely. I love the hype, the kick, the adrenaline that builds up in such a scenario. Okay, so I took my whiskey and said, okay, off I go. So I stood up from the bar and went straight to where Wilson and Zitkiyahu were sitting, and I said, well, sorry for disturbing you guys, but you're Ray Wilson, right? And he said, yeah, in his very, very Scottish accent. And I said, well, I'd really like to say a big welcome, as I'm a great fan of Genesis, and I would really like to say a big welcome to you into the band, and we're very delighted to have you, and we're great fans of the album, and we're looking forward to the live shows that you are planning for next year, so we're very happy, and I'm very happy to meet you in person. And he was very, very down to earth, very easygoing guy, and Nir as well, the drummer. And he thanked me and all that, and he said, listen, Banks and Rutherford, the two old guys, okay, they were like almost like 17 or 18 years older than Ray. He says that Banks and Rutherford are already up sleeping, but if you want to meet them as well, why don't you come along next day, tomorrow basically, which was November the 9th. 1997, a Sunday. We're going to check out early. We have our early flight, so we're going to check out at 7:30 in the morning. If you come here, you're going to meet them in the lobby if you want. I said, whoa, that's great. That's appreciate that. Okay, so we were all over the moon. Like, I thanked them again, and I went back to my girlfriend. Like, wow, this is amazing. So the next day, we went back, this time with my cousin and a friend, at 7:30 in the morning to the hotel. We enter the lobby, wait a bit, and then they come, Mike Rutherford, Tony Banks, Nir Zidkiyahu, and obviously Ray. So Ray at that stage was like, oh, hi. He was expecting us, I think. So we approached fairly conservative Banks and Rutherford, but they were very welcoming. We stood for a group photo. We stood for some individual photos with Tony Banks as well. And we were very happy to meet them, and it was a great occasion. And then when they were coming back to Budapest the next year, '98, January '98, we met them again. Again gave them some gifts, and what happened afterwards was strange, because we followed them around obviously, and then as they were touring in Europe, Budapest, Vienna, Munich, and so on, and during the course of '98. But then, obviously, during this time, they had to cancel their U.S. tours because of lack of interest. Because the U.S. market was not interested in Ray Wilson. They liked and loved Phil Collins. So Genesis without Phil Collins was not going any forward for the U.S. market. So Genesis decided to end the project with Wilson, and they dropped him basically, which was fairly unfair, I think. And but I liked the guy a lot, and I really thought that he had a great impact in some fresh new blood in the band. So I was reaching out to him. I was trying to find him. I know that he was living up in Edinburgh at the time. So I somehow found out his email, his direct personal email. I started to write him. He replied. And then in 2001, I decided to go to see him. He was, you know, he was in a sort of a downfall after Genesis split up, and he was, you know, looking at his potential career with Genesis just flying away or losing it in a way, shape and form that was not very nice from Banks and Rutherford. But he got himself together then and played live. Ray Wilson played live on the Fringe in Edinburgh in August 2001. So I decided to go there, wrote him, I'm coming, I'm delighted to see this unplugged version stuff with his brother and Amanda Lyon at the time. So I went there and I attended the shows, and that's where we became good friends with Ray Wilson and myself. You know, we hung out there, had a few beers. I followed 3 shows there in Edinburgh at the time, and then the next year I went to see him in Ingolstadt, Germany in November 2002, and so we developed sort of a great, good, you know, lasting friendship relation. And then there was a big gap in time where I didn't go to see him. He moved to Poland, to Poznan, I think. With his new girlfriend then at the time, and then in 2015 I went to see him again in Austria this time after a long time. We haven't met for over 10 years, and I remember going to Weiz in Austria and sitting there in the front row, and you know, just being very delighted to see Ray Wilson perform for the first time in a long time that I've seen him. He kept performing, but I just wasn't going because a lot of things going on in my life. But obviously, as the show went on, he stopped the show and introduced me to the audience there in Austria and Weiz as his personal friend, and he was telling me basically off from the stage that he was delighted to see me and all that. I was very honored by that, and we met afterwards backstage. And then the next year, we went with my new girlfriend at the time, my to-be wife. We went to see him in Dortmund, Germany, and I introduced her to him and to his great brother Steve Wilson. Okay, and then the next year I went with my daughter to see Ray Wilson in Dortmund again, and then the same year we went to see him with a friend of mine in Brno, Czech Republic. And at this stage we are buddies. Okay. I don't say that we are close friends, but we are good buddies. So whenever we meet along the road, okay, with Ray, it's always a great pleasure. It's always, you know, we always kind of see how time goes by, and we always give each other a hug, and we always hang out backstage after his show together with his musicians and his brother sometimes if he's along during the tour. So this is a story that, from hearing the news that Phil Collins has been replaced by a new singer, how this started and how we met, and then how this developed into this great, long-lasting friendship. How we became buddies. We became buddies, and we whenever we meet, we have a good time. It's fantastic, and I really appreciate somebody like Ray being so down to earth, and he is so approachable, so friendly, so easy, so laid back, and has such a great music solo artists as a solo artist, and covering lots of Genesis material as well. It's really always a pleasure to see him live, because that's real genuine music, and I like his appearance, his voice, and as I say, I like the guy. He's a tremendous down to earth fella, and I'm very proud to be able to call him a friend and a good buddy at this time, at this stage. So, and we look back at like 24 years of friendships is tremendous. So that was what the moral is of the story. I don't know, but that does not have to be a moral all the time. It's just an interesting story, probably, for me to tell you about my friendship with Ray Wilson, Thanks very much and see you soon for another storytelling session. Bye.